Hey y'all, welcome to this edition of History and Highballs French Broad Chocolate. My name is Stacy and I handle adult education here at the museum. So whenever you join us for one of these History and Highballs programs, you and I get to virtually spend the evening together, listening to some incredible stories about North Carolina places and people and what makes our state so special. If you enjoyed tonight's program, we invite you to head over to the museum's website at ncmuseumofhistory.org, where you can learn more about our upcoming programs, exhibits, and digital resources. This is also where you can find information about becoming an NC Museum of History Associate. Our associates and foundation provide crucial funding and support to the museum, which in addition to many other things, helps make programmings like this evening's event possible. We would like to thank all of those of you who donated funds towards this evening's program. We continue to do our best to keep our programs free to attend, but there are costs associated with keeping our series going, and we just continue to be so appreciative of your generous support of the museum. As a special part of this evening's program, you can get your very own French Broad chocolate in our wonderful museum shop. We'll share the link in the chat, or you're welcome to come down to the museum and do some shopping in person. The museum is open regular hours, 7 days a week. A few quick housekeeping items for this evening. We ask that you please keep your mics muted throughout the entirety of the program, and to please type any questions that you have for our guest speaker into the chat function located at the bottom center of your screen. At the end of the program, our intern Savannah will ask our speaker as many of your questions as time allows. So it's my honor to introduce and welcome this evening's speaker, J.L. Skeffington, co-founder and CEO of French Broad Chocolate in Asheville, North Carolina. JL's passion for chocolate was born in 2003 when she and her co-founder Dan drove a veggie oil-powered school bus to the cacao-rich tropics of Costa Rica and opened a restaurant called Bread and Chocolate. While living there for 2 years, they visited cacao farms, got to know cacao farmers, and learned about Theobroma cacao, I hope I'm saying that correctly, the plant from which chocolate is made. Inspired to continue their path in chocolate, they moved to Asheville and founded French Broad Chocolate in 2006. Guided by a mission to source with integrity and craft with intention, French Broad Chocolate builds meaningful relationships with sustainable farmers and producers and transforms fine cacao beans into craft chocolate in their experiential chocolate factory in Asheville, North Carolina. Bean to bar to bonbon and beyond means they create not only their artisan chocolate bars, but also a compendium of confections and desserts featuring their chocolate paired with local, fresh, and organic ingredients. Their creations can be enjoyed at French Broad Chocolate Lounge, their destination dessert restaurant, at their chocolate factory and cafe, or have the Asheville experience sent directly to you from FrenchBroadChocolate.com. French Broad Chocolate is a public benefit corporation and a certified B Corp, a third-party certification demonstrating a commitment to being people who use business as a force for good. Their chocolates have been recognized in many national and international awards. JL serves on the board of directors of the Economic Development Coalition in Asheville and Buncombe County, and is a founding board member and vice president of Chow Chow, an Asheville culinary event, whose mission is to celebrate and enrich the unique foodways of the Southern Appalachian region. JL, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I really asked a lot of you with that bio, and I feel like we kind of got through the whole presentation, but hopefully I'll be able to add to that story a little bit and inspire some questions for anyone who wants to learn more. I will say we're giving this presentation to a bunch of folks, but I'm looking at only myself. So that's always a challenge in connecting. So I'll rely on the chat function, and hopefully Stacy can help me out with managing any questions that come. But I'd love to engage. So if we can use that chat function, I'm happy to make this conversational as much as we can in this technology format. That said, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to take a twisty turny journey along with me and Dan. All right, now you have to watch me awkwardly scroll to the beginning. Okay, so I first wanted to, can you guys see this okay? Stacy, you'll have to let me know. Okay.
Yes, it looks great.
Great. Okay. So I thought I would first explain the idea behind our company, French Broad Chocolate. We're a craft chocolate company. And what that means is basically we're a new kind of chocolate industry, taking chocolate out of the hands of industrial producers and bringing more intention to integrity of sourcing and process. So if you think about craft beer, how, 30 years ago, one could not imagine that someone would not only pay $20 for a 4-pack of specialty limited release cans of beer, but they would wait in a long line to do so. That could just never be fathomed. Or in the case of coffee, where we used to, brew our Folgers at home, or, get a 50-cent cup at the diner. We could never imagine that we'd spend $6 a day on a fancy latte. So chocolate's kind of having the opportunity to follow in the footsteps of these pioneering industries and really looking up to those models for guidance and how to bring chocolate to another level and bring the flavor and enjoyment as well as the integrity of the product to a similar level. Bean to bar chocolate is something that you might have heard before or hear me say tonight. And what that means is chocolate makers who take the raw material of a cacao bean and transform it into a chocolate bar. So rather than buying chocolate as an ingredient, like any of you might, if you were going to make a chocolate chip cookie or a brownie, you would go buy chocolate, you wouldn't go buy cacao. These are chocolate makers who have committed to that next step and that connection to the source. So introducing, our company, the company was co-founded by myself and Dan, and we started our journey in Asheville in 2006. We started as a home-based farmers market stand and are now a 90-person company making 50 tons of chocolate a year. We're a vertically integrated craft chocolate manufacturer and retail experience brand. What that means is basically we're importing cacao and other ingredients sourced with integrity. We're making craft chocolate from the bean. We wholesale to retailers who sell our chocolate, and we sell at our own retail locations, including the Chocolate Lounge and our Chocolate Factory Cafe. So the Chocolate Lounge is in downtown Asheville, and our intention with this location was to create a beautiful space for the community to be together around their chocolate. So most traditional chocolate shops are a place where you go to the counter, you point to some things, you get a box and you leave and you experience your chocolate somewhere else, in your car, in your house. We wanted to create a place where the community could come together over chocolate, and that has become bigger and more popular than we ever could have imagined. We opened in 2008 and had to move into a larger location in 2014. And we're so happy to be an established part of the downtown Asheville food scene. Bean to bar to bonbon and beyond. We're not only making chocolate, we're making all of our desserts, confections, and drinking chocolates with that chocolate that we're making from the cacao beans that we're sourcing. Our chocolate factory that we're in presently, we moved into in 2018, and that was after outgrowing our original factory, which was built in 2012. You see, it's the Museum of History, but we're kind of doing a little bit of a time warp and a time jump. So if this is disorienting, happy to answer any questions that you might have. Our company's mission is to make awesome chocolate, sourced with integrity, crafted with intention, and served with gratitude. We take this mission very seriously, and it guides us and encourages us and inspires us to continue to grow. We believe we have a set of values and offerings that contribute to our community, and we're excited about the opportunity to buy more cacao from farmers, paying a higher price and valuing the expertise and hard work that they're contributing. Stacy mentioned we're a certified B Corporation, and I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that before, but basically it's a nonprofit that certifies businesses. So just like organic would certify growing practices of a food, or LEED would certify building practices, B Corporation certifies the entire business operations. So they're evaluating our sustainability initiatives, our engagement with our local community, our employment practices, our governance, and our relationships with our customers. So this is a big inspiration for us as being a mission-driven business, and people using business as a force for good. So speaking of history, Stacy mentioned our journey to Costa Rica. So the way we got into chocolate was by, well, first it started out as a passion and a hobby where we both lived in Minneapolis, but then the journey took us on a school bus that we bought in Minnesota, converted it into an RV that ran on used vegetable oil, and we drove the bus from Minnesota through Mexico, through all of the countries of Central America, and landed on the southern Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. We started our restaurant, Bread and Chocolate, and had the opportunity to buy produce from local farmers, shop at the local farmers market, have relationships with the people who made our honey, who grew our vegetables and fruits, who raised our eggs. We started to, without really intending to do so, started to really build our philosophy around sourcing ingredients and how that was becoming core to our values and our identity as business people. We were in Costa Rica for 2 years, and we sold the business and decided to start our next chapter. This brought us to beautiful Asheville, and we started French Broad Chocolates almost right away in 2006. We started as a farmer's market stand. So just Dan and me making bonbons, confections, and brownies in a certified kitchen in our home and selling them at farmers markets. This gave us the opportunity to establish relationships with our local farmers, to get to know our local produce, and to see what paired well with chocolate, and just begin those relationships in our community. As we became more enamored with sourcing and more intentional with our relationship building, we had one issue that we were running up against, which was we felt connected to the source of almost all of our ingredients, but we did not feel connected to the source of our cacao. And that's when we decided that we were going to stop buying chocolate as an ingredient, make some relationships with cacao farmers and producers, source really fine quality cacao, and learn to make our own chocolate. We started making chocolate in 2010 and built our first chocolate factory in 2012. Cacao is an evergreen tree that grows 20 degrees north and south of the equator. Its birthplace is in the upper Amazon region of South America, around Peru. But it grows successfully all across the globe in that tropical belt. We're sourcing from Peru, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and India, as well as Guatemala, as well as Uganda now, and the Dominican Republic. We're very committed to long-term relationships. So as we grow and have the need to add more producers, we maintain the relationships with those that we've been working with over the years. The cacao tree is a very interesting tree, like nothing I've ever seen before. These giant pod-shaped fruits grow directly from the trunk of the tree. They're very big and heavy with giant stems. And inside the tree, these are the flowers, which, if you can believe, those giant football-shaped pods come from a flower that is smaller than your fingernail. The pods can be at many different shapes, sizes, and colors, but they all have that similar shape. And inside the pod, you'll find a thick husk and rows of seeds. The seeds are about the size and shape of an almond, and they're each covered in this white tropical fruit. So it does not taste like chocolate. It tastes like kind of a banana, guava, mango. It's tart and sweet and tropical and delicious, but it tastes nothing like chocolate. And at this point, the seed, AKA cacao bean, tastes nothing like chocolate either. It's bitter, and most people who would bite into one would promptly spit it out. However, the fruit becomes an important part of the production of chocolate. After the cacao is harvested, it's put into wooden boxes and fermented. So the fruit surrounding the cacao seed becomes the medium for fermentation, and the acids produced by that process penetrate the seed and transform everything about it, transform its color, its texture, and most importantly, for all of us chocolate lovers, it transforms the flavor and begins to develop those flavor precursors that become the flavors in the chocolate that we love. The fermented cacao is then dried, usually in the sun, but sometimes it's very rainy in the tropics and it has to be dried under cover. But once it's successfully fermented and dried, it's bagged in jute sacks, and that is how we get our cacao that we turn into chocolate. So in our chocolate factory, we take that raw material, we roast the cacao, similar to a coffee roaster would. We use a drum roaster, which means that the beans are tumbling in a hot, agitating oven. And after they're cooled, we take them through a process called winnowing. This separates the cacao bean from the husk, which is like a papery shell that we don't want to use in our chocolate. Once we have the roasted cacao beans with the shell removed, that's what we call cacao nibs. And that is what we grind with sugar and cocoa butter to make our dark chocolate. We also add milk powder and butter to make our milk chocolates. We love the relationships that we establish with our farmers and believe that every chocolate bar tells a story. So when we build our chocolate factory, we built it to host tours every single day. We're talking about chocolate, we're talking about our cacao farmers, our cacao producers, the places and the people at the source of this ingredient, this delicious food that we all love. So tours and education is a big part of who we are. We're big believers in sustainability, and that's sustainability of the environment and sustainability of people. So we want to create a business that is supportive of people and places. We use sustainable packaging. So all of our chocolate bar packaging is 100% post-consumer recycled paper. And the cellophane that we wrap our bars with is plant-based and compostable. So that is kind of the run through of what I've got for you. And I kind of ran through that really quick, but I would be happy to take any questions that people have.
Hello. So a question that I have as the intern, are there any challenges you faced being a bean to bar operation?
Yeah, it's a really challenging business. And a lot of times, we were driven by our values. So we weren't driven by convenience or cost savings. This absolutely is less efficient. It costs more money and it takes more time to commit to this process rather than buy chocolate. But that's how we've chosen to exist in the world, how we want to be in relationship to the world. And we're excited to have 90 passionate people who are on the journey with us, connecting people to the source of chocolate and educating people about how much effort and work goes on, somewhere far away that most people don't have the opportunity to think about or learn about.
Okay, somebody else is asking, how long does it take to make the chocolate once you get the cacao bean?
Mhm. It's a multi-day process. So, every step takes a certain amount of time, and some are active steps and some are inactive steps. The roasting itself is, it's less than an hour to roast a batch of cacao. The winnowing process will take another hour or so. The cacao is pre-refined and then milled, so that's a multi-hour step. Conching is where the flavor and the texture of the chocolate are refined. And then once it's finished chocolate, it's tempered and deposited into bars, which can be another couple of days for a batch of chocolate. So it takes 3 days to make a batch of chocolate. But it's kind of like there's overlapping steps, so you can be doing one step while you start the roasting of the next batch.
Vic wants to know if cacao beans taste different depending on the region they come from.
I am very glad you asked that question. Definitely. That's what is so fascinating about chocolate. So if you think about wine is a great way to compare it. And you have a few different factors that impact flavor. One is genetics. So you have different varietals of grapes. You have a Merlot that's going to taste different than a Pinot Noir. Next, you have the terroir of that particular place. So if you have a Pinot Noir from France, it's going to taste quite different in character to a Pinot Noir in Oregon. So that definitely, and that's a factor of, climate, of other plants that are planted around the cacao, the soil. Those are all going to influence the flavor, as well as the sort of cultural terroir and the traditions of the people of a certain region. So absolutely, we do a lot of single origin chocolates. We have chocolates from Peru, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and India. And even though the recipe is practically identical, minor percentages of cacao up and down, the flavors are fascinatingly different. We can have one that's earthy, one that's nutty, one that's fruity, just based on the particular beans that we're buying.
Do you have a preference? Like, is there a specific country that you have a favorite cacao bean that tastes the best to you?
Right now, my favorite origin that we make is our India. It's a 71% dark chocolate. And for those who aren't familiar with that, 71% means the cacao and cacao butter is 71% of the formula. So the rest being sugar. Typically, anything above a 65 is considered a dark chocolate. But because of the variance in flavor, according to the particular beans and the particular process of the chocolate maker, though higher cacao mass generally indicates less sweet and more bitter, it's not always the case. So this 71% India chocolate that I'm in love with is fruity and bright and sweet. And it's surprising. It tastes like you might have put in some hibiscus or raspberries. And it's just, it's really fun to taste next to a really traditional flavored chocolate because it really shows you that range.
Charlene and Barbara want to know how you come up with your ideas to create new products.
Mm-hmm. Lots of different inspiration. Definitely, when the company was just Dan and me, we had the full creative control and created all the recipes. That our inspiration came from culinary influences. We would look to, different cuisines of different cultures. We had a Oaxacan mole negro bonbon and one inspired by Indian kulfi that had rose, cardamom, pistachio. We would be inspired by childhood memories and create things that taste like, a Whopper, but better. And now that our team's so big, we find inspiration in each other. So we have, that creativity is, more democratic. It's more people involved. And so the inspiration might come completely outside of us. I'll also say that we're really inspired by our fellow small business folk in Asheville. So different chefs and artisan food producers give us so much opportunity for collaboration and partnership. For example, we have a milk chocolate bar that we've collaborated with a local spice producer called Spice Walla. And this is an Indian chef in our area that creates a chai masala blend. And so we're combining this chai masala spice blend with our milk chocolate, and it's just delightful.
So what's next for French Broad Chocolate? Like, where do you see the future of the company going?
Mm-hmm. So we are inspired to grow. We feel like we've got some values that are worth sharing, and chocolate makes people happy, and we love making people happy. And almost as motivating, if not more, is the opportunity to help to bring health to a supply chain that's been broken for a really long time. There's a lot of history of injustice in the cacao industry, and we, don't overstate our power and influence in this. This is a really huge multi-billion-dollar industry that's very broken. But together with our colleagues in craft chocolate, we're looking to bring more transparency into what's going on, and to take the responsibility to learn ourselves, and with the goal of bringing more health and sustainability into the supply chain. And that includes both the planet. There's a very sustainable way to grow cacao that actually sequesters carbon and is really great for the planet. And then there's an environmentally devastating way in which you clear a rainforest and plant a monocrop that requires water inputs and fertilizer. So there's so all of that kind of is to say that it motivates us to be a part of this turning of the tide, and to be a part of a community that's looking to address these issues.
Do you have a favorite part of the process?
Eating it.
Oh yeah, no, I have to agree for that.
No, I, again, growing from a 2-person company to a 90-person company, my job's very different now. I'm no longer in the kitchen every day. I'm, in meetings, I'm leading teams, I'm hiring and managing our company culture. Just lots more business management is my daily experience now. But I still feel a responsibility to sign off on every product that we sell like it's mine. So that gives me the great burden of being chief taster, and to help iterate and to collaborate with our chocolatiers to bring a recipe to where we all just love it. That's definitely an amazing conclusion to the journey. Traveling to origin, that's another great perk of the industry, as we establish relationships with these producers and have the opportunity to visit them and visit the farms and to see other parts of the world and build those connections.
Charlene and Barbara also want to know, if you were creating a flight of chocolates for a personal chocolate tasting, what would you include?
Great question. There's a couple, oh my gosh, you could do so many things. If you were doing only bars, I would want to include a milk chocolate. I would want to include probably 3 origins of chocolate to highlight the different flavor nuances of cacao from different regions. And I would get guidance from your favorite chocolate maker to pick some really complementary and contrasting flavors. For example, in our chocolate factory tours, we feature cacao from Nicaragua, which is, the chocolate is very, I hate to say it, chocolatey. It's really like rich and earthy, and it just tastes like what you expect chocolate to taste like. So that's a chocolate that we use in a lot of our pastry. And then we have our Peru, which is bright and acidic and fruity, and you would swear there's like raspberries and cherries in it. So that, I think, is just so fun and exciting, and gives people an opportunity to really understand and to kind of be successful in tasting. I don't know if we've got experienced wine tasters in the room, or people who felt intimidated, like, I don't know, it tastes like wine, vinegar, grapes, you know, but like, and then you hear people saying like, oh, it tastes like graphite and, you know, wood chips. And what kind of wood chip? You know, you can get really deep and nerdy and tasting. So I like to give people chocolates that are distinct enough that it's really encouraging to be able to identify and differentiate those chocolate flavors. I think it's also fun to include some bonbons or truffles, as you might call them. Those are, you know, chocolate combined with usually cream and some other flavors. And that addition of cream really pairs nicely with, you know, wine or beer. Oh, that's the other thing I would add for the flight of chocolates, is some sort of beverage pairing. So wine and chocolate can make great pairings. Typically you want to pair drier chocolates or drier wines with bolder chocolates, and sweeter wines with sweeter chocolates. And beer actually is really fun to pair with chocolate. And if you can believe it, cheese is actually really fun to pair with chocolate too. You're going to have a tasting, a flight every week. You're going to have like different themes. Suddenly you're going to have like a whole new party.
Okay, I think that's all the questions for now, but people are saying they're very inspired by this. I know I'm hungry right now. Now I want chocolate.
Thank you, JL, so much for taking time this evening to give us this awesome behind the scenes look at the bean to bar process, and for sharing your journey with us. This is absolutely inspiring. They're right. And how cool to pair with cheese. I've heard wine, but beer and cheese, that would be interesting. That sounds pretty cool.
The surprise, if you're into blue cheese, try blue cheese and dark chocolate. Really, really good combination.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Anything with chocolate, I'm in. So that's that sounds good.
Same.
And thank you all of you who joined us this evening. We hope that you will join us for our next History and Highballs, Ebony Wine and Spirits, happening Thursday, February 17th at 7 p.m. In the meantime, we hope that all of you stay well and take care. We will see everybody soon. Good night, guys.
Thank you.